We are coming on the air tonight with the threat looming over Israel, the possibility of an attack from Iran maybe any minute, and the U.S. taking the fairly rare step of announcing a sub deploying to the region. We're live in Israel, where the military says it's on its highest alerts. Then, breaking late tonight, the FBI tells NBC News it is investigating what the Trump campaign calls a hack of its computer systems by the Iranians. More on that and whether it might come up in Mr. Trump's interview with Elon Musk, the lightning rod owner of X, just a few hours from now. Plus, the new questions on COVID boosters, who needs them and who's getting them, with the revived controversy over whether to wear masks or ban them. And the new moves just hours ago from Major League Baseball to discipline the Red Sox player who leveled a slur at a fan. Then they're calling it under-consumption core. Do you really need to order that thing off that site, or can you live without it? How inflation is factoring into one of the summer's viral shopping or unshopping trends later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie. We'll get to those headlines in a sec, but first we've got to get you some breaking news out west. Warnings of potential aftershocks after this 4.4 magnitude earthquake shook the LA area in just the last couple of hours. Want to show it to you here, caught on a security camera. You can see the shaking when it started happening. And then I want to show you the moment on live TV. This was during an ESPN broadcast when the anchor realized what was going down. Watch this.
As we have a bit of an earthquake here in Los Angeles, so we're just going to make sure that our studio lights, everything stays safe.
You see where it happened here. I want to show you on the map the Highland Park area with reports that people miles away felt it. No major damage, nobody hurt as far as fire officials can tell. Dana Griffin is in L.A. And Dana, that is good news, right? These early reports that this seems to have been a fairly minor quake. But talk us through some of those aftershock warnings and what happens from here.
Yeah, although this was very minor, Hallie, millions of people within a 100-mile radius could feel the shake. And I think that's why you had just such a reaction, because we felt it here in Los Angeles. We are some 15 miles away from Highland Park, and we could see the lights moving. We could feel the rattle. It was so quick, and it almost was very confusing for people. Like, was that an earthquake? And clearly it was. The local fire department reporting that they have already completed their earthquake mode survey. That's when they go out. They take a look at this critical infrastructure to make sure there's no major damage. And like you mentioned, no major damage reported so far, except for in Pasadena. City Hall saying that a water pipe has burst because of this earthquake. And the concern is what happens next, the potential for aftershocks. Seismologists have already reported at least 2 earthquakes or 2 aftershocks that have occurred less than 2 magnitude, which means that you could barely feel them, if at all. And as you're seeing on your screen right now, several students rushed out of classrooms onto large fields just as a precaution in case there were more shaking. We're seeing some images of home security cameras where you can see the violent shaking, items falling over, but for the most part, no major damage. But listen to what some local people said it felt like just miles from where we're standing right here.
First, my ears plugged up like when I was just sitting in an airplane, then 2 seconds later, boom. It seemed like forever, but it's probably a second or 2.
And Hallie, it's also worth mentioning, this is the time to have your go kit. We just reported on your show last week about the potential for mega quakes and the importance of making sure that you're prepared, because experts have predicted that we are overdue for the big one, which could be an 8 to 9 magnitude, which could cause catastrophic damage and cost several thousands of lives. So it's just a reminder for people to be prepared, because we are in a time where earthquakes will likely happen. Hallie?
Let's take you overseas now, where Israel's military says it's on its highest alert, with the U.S. rushing some military power to the Middle East as a strike from Iran looks like it could come any minute. You've got the Pentagon sending out the USS Georgia, a guided missile submarine, to join the American warships and fighter jets already in the region. It's pretty rare that Washington would publicly share something like the deployment of a sub, so take that as a signal. You've got the Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, telling Israel's defense minister in a call the U.S. is committed to taking every step possible to defend its ally, according to the Pentagon. The whole thing now a tinderbox after back-to-back assassinations of senior members of Hamas and Hezbollah nearly 2 weeks ago. Iran pledging to retaliate. That's what the world is waiting for now. We don't know what that looks like yet. European allies want Iran to hold back, saying today more attacks would jeopardize the opportunity to agree to a ceasefire and the release of hostages. The U.S. has been trying to get this hostage deal into reality, but today, another potential setback after Hamas spokesperson said one Israeli hostage was killed by a guard. Ellison Barber is joining us now. Okay, let's start with this moment here. The potential attack from Iran may be imminent, but we don't know for sure, right?
Right. So we still don't know exactly when it could happen. But I will say the feeling in Israel and the statements that we're hearing from Israeli officials right now, it does feel different than it has in the last couple of weeks. There was that initial moment after Hamas's political leader, Hania, was assassinated inside of Tehran, where it felt like this was kind of the height of it. And could tensions get even higher? Then it sort of felt like Iran's rhetoric sort of simmered a little bit. Hezbollah's did not, but Iran kind of backed off on as many aggressive public statements. Then we had that strike on a school turned shelter inside of Gaza over the weekend, and it felt like we just were up again and past the level that it was shortly after the assassination of Hania inside of Tehran. So you're right. We do not know exactly when this will happen, but Israeli officials are on high alert. They have consistently said they expect Iran to have some sort of response, basically saying we believe them when the supreme leader says they are going to do something, and that they thought this would likely be some sort of multi-day strike, and that it would likely be bigger than what they saw back in April when Iran struck Israel following the death of 2 Iranian Revolutionary Guard members inside of Syria that Israel was widely blamed for carrying out. Now, one thing that stands out to me that we've heard in the last 24 hours from Israel's defense minister is he said that he describes the threats coming from both Iran and Hezbollah as unlike any other threats they have received before in terms of the harm they want to do to Israel. He also said, though, our enemies, and these are his words, our enemies should know the way that we would respond would be more than like anything the IDF has done before as well. He went on to say, I hope they have done their math well. We spent some time last week talking with EMS workers, a volunteer group here in Israel. And Hallie, they were telling us their biggest concern is that a massive strike would possibly target infrastructure and that it could send the country into a blackout, and that they would have difficulty getting to anyone who may need help, even if the Iron Dome were to stop whatever might be coming. Hallie?
There's also, Ellison, some new criticism against Israel after this deadly strike on a school in Gaza City where displaced Palestinians had been sheltering. Talk us through that and how it relates, as you're laying out here, these potential talks on trying to move a ceasefire forward.
Yeah, I mean, we immediately heard statements from Hamas, Hezbollah, most of the Arab world, also a lot of the Western world coming out and questioning this and also condemning it. Now, Israel says that they were targeting this because they claim it is a Hamas command center, and they say that they killed 19 militants in this strike. But according to Gaza's civil defense, at least 100 people died in this strike. And based on video that we have seen from the ground, there were children involved in this, women, as well as other people who appear to be civilians, but it's hard to know for sure. But either way, the number Israel is saying, even if people were to say, yes, that is for sure what was going on here, they say they killed 19 militants. We still have a much higher death toll coming from inside of Gaza. Yeah. That has really led to officials from Iran to Hamas saying, hey, we're not going to do a ceasefire talk. And to be quite frank, from the Hamas side of things, it really seemed like the ceasefire negotiations had all but stopped the second Hania was assassinated inside of Tehran. Remember, he was the chief negotiator of sorts for these talks, and he was considered to be a more moderate leader than the new head of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, who is currently inside of Gaza and has not been seen since October 10th. So immediately, it seemed like from here that it was hard to see when I would speak to experts who have at a think tank in the West Bank, one in particular, where they just said the second they assassinated Hania, it said to anyone trying to have a negotiation from the Palestinian side of things that they weren't actually interested in it. So this August 15th date, despite the statements from the Western world saying, hey, let's get a deal now, the voices that we're hearing, it seems really unlikely, Hallie, and that's really the only way to say it. It seems like a long shot at this point in time.
Ellison Barber, glad to have you in the region, live for us tonight in Tel Aviv. Thank you. Some breaking news here at home, with the FBI just confirming to NBC News in a new statement that it is investigating claims by the Trump campaign that it was hacked by Iranians. Ken Delanian is joining us now. And Ken, this is new information because up to this point, it was not clear if or how the FBI was involved after the Trump came out over the weekend and said that it had been hacked. Walk us through what we know.
That is correct, Hallie. And the FBI says they are conducting a criminal investigation. That's a formal procedure under FBI policies, and it gives them access to compel turning over certain documents, for example. But I'm told the Trump campaign and Microsoft, which runs their systems, are cooperating with this investigation. And remember, Donald Trump said in a Truth Social post that the campaign had been hacked by Iran directly. Now, Microsoft said in a post on Friday that an Iranian-linked group had attempted to target a senior campaign official without identifying the Trump campaign. So there was a little bit of ambiguity about exactly what was going on here. But remember that Politico and other news organizations said over the weekend that they had been approached by an anonymous person offering what looked like internal documents from the Trump campaign, including a 271-page dossier of opposition research on vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance that contained some unflattering characterizations. And so it's looking more and more like this may have been a state-sponsored hack on the Trump campaign, which would make it the second in American history after the Russian-sponsored hack in 2016 of the Democrats. And it's going to put news organizations in a real dilemma about if offered this material that's newsworthy, what to do with it. The Trump campaign is already saying you shouldn't use it. You're playing into the hands of a foreign adversary. But of course, in 2016, Donald Trump welcomed with open arms the leaked material that was hacked by Russian intelligence and leaked through WikiLeaks, embraced it, used it in his campaign, and was roundly criticized in a bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee report for what they described as a counterintelligence nightmare. That was then, this is now, but it's something we're going to be confronting probably in every election going forward, Hallie.
Ken Delanian, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All of this is happening as former President Trump himself is set to be interviewed live on X tonight, formerly known as Twitter, by the owner of that platform, Elon Musk, just a few hours from now. No word on whether Musk will ask about that reported hack, but it comes as Mr. Trump is posting on the platform for the first time today in nearly a year. You're seeing the campaign video that he put up, and we're about to show you what Musk then posted. He's apparently psyched about it, putting up this whisper goosebumps meme. On the other side of the aisle, Democrats are hoping to keep some of the momentum they're seeing going with some news tonight on the primetime programming at the Democratic National Convention, which begins 1 week from today. Sources tell us President Biden is set to speak Monday night, along with former President Obama Tuesday night, former President Bill Clinton Wednesday, and Vice President Kamala Harris, of course, the big headliner Thursday. The backdrop for it, the numbers you see here. See all the way to the right? Harris +4 in each one of those Rust Belt battlegrounds. That is good news for Democrats, although we should note that is within the margin of error. Garrett Haake is joining us for all things Republican side. But let me start with Kelly O'Donnell, who's posted up near the White House. And it's interesting here that it is going to be President Biden who will be the headliner on the night that the DNC kicks off, in what seems like a nod to his leadership after withdrawing from the ticket. It would have been his convention, Kelly, but he bowed to pressure from congressional Democrats, as he is talking about now.
That's right. Monday night will be a way for Democrats, many of whom were very frustrated and concerned and worried about the prospects for Joe Biden seeking a second term, will now be able to show their appreciation for the decision that he made that has certainly upended the campaign. And many Democrats believe it has given new life to their prospects for November. So the president can also use this as an opportunity to recount many of the things he believes his administration has done and to chart some of the course for the remaining months of his term. Monday will be the big Biden day, and expect a lot of the hoopla. And it is also a day that kicks off what will be really honoring a number of former Democratic presidents. You listed some of the big names that will be there, and that will help for Democrats to get involved in the sense of they have won the office before, they want to do it again, and they want to break new ground. The president did talk in an interview that aired over the weekend on CBS Sunday Morning about his choice to stand down from the race. And earlier he had said, it's about me and my decision. He gave us a little more insight about how the impact of other races played on his mind. Here's what the president said.
I think I have an obligation to the country to do the most important thing we can do, and that is we must defeat Trump. Think of this. Every other time the Ku Klux Klan's been involved, they wore hoods, so they're not identified. Under his presidency, they came out of those woods with no hoods, knowing they had an ally.
And in that interview, the president talked about the fact that he had heard from Democratic colleagues up and down the ballot that they were concerned about his ability to get it done. And so he made the decision that has changed the course of 2024 for sure.
As Republicans, as the Trump-Vance campaign looks to shift its strategy now for this, new political opponent in Vice President Harris at the top of the ticket and Governor Tim Walz as her running mate, there has been some discussion among those in the Trump orbit that he should perhaps focus on policy. Harris will focus on policy later this week, as she's expected to roll out a platform looking specifically on the economy, right?
Very much so. And obviously, Joe Biden, as a candidate and as the sitting president, had all kinds of policy papers on a variety of subjects that were already fully formed for his campaign. And the work has certainly begun in earnest to move that forward. We don't yet know if there will be any differences. Today at the White House briefing, the press secretary said there's been no daylight between the positions of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We'll see how that goes when she rolls that out this week. It will be an important test about where is she taking the country in terms of her policy ideas and how much they may or may not differ from Joe Biden.
Kelly O'Donnell, live for us there on the North Lawn. Kel, thank you. Garrett, let me bring you in here as we talk about former President Trump, because I'm old enough to remember when a different presidential candidate, Ron DeSantis, tried to do a one-on-one with Musk on a then Twitter situation, and it was like not amazing. What is the expectation for tonight, at least even in terms of substance here? Musk is somebody who is going to be, it seems by all accounts, a friendly interviewer based on his support of and relationship with the former president.
Yeah, Musk has put millions of dollars of his own money into a PAC supporting Donald Trump. The tech issues that bedeviled Ron DeSantis' rollout have hopefully been addressed. Musk has said he's been pressure testing the X systems today to make sure that they don't have some of the same issues that they had in the last time they tried to use Spaces in this manner. Look, for Donald Trump, this actually makes a lot of sense, believe it or not. His campaign strategy is predicated on reaching the kind of voters who would never watch a program like this, but who do watch streaming services, gaming streams on X. This, is the kind of thing where it might get laughed off, it might have technical problems, but if it reaches even some of those people who don't engage with the traditional news cycle, I think they'll consider it a success to a certain degree.
We've been showing some of the campaign video that he posted on X when, I'm sure like you, my Twitter alerts for Donald Trump went off.
Didn't realize I still had those.
Yeah, for the first time in a very long time. What's so interesting here is there seems to be Twitter Trump and then Truth Social Trump, and a distinction between them.
If I might even extend it to a different social media meme, it kind of reminds me of the Instagram versus reality meme that so many people use. What we've seen on Twitter today, X, has been a much more polished version of Trump. The posts have looked as though they were written by staff as much as they've been written by Trump. They had at least 2 of these highly produced videos with different topics. He's got 88 million followers on X, who are people who have all different walks of life and different interests. On Truth Social, a platform he built, designed, and runs, those followers are almost all Trump super fans. That's more like his internal monologue, and it has been, even in the course of the day today. Topics that were similar had completely different tone when posted out on X. A lot more of the grievance Trump that people who follow him see on the stump and are kind of gotten used to.
But even somebody like former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is saying to Donald Trump today, hey, let's not talk about crowd sizes. Let's do something a little different. That seems to be so far falling on deaf ears.
This has always been the issue with Trump. First of all, there's no better way to get his attention than to say these things on television. It works way better than calling the campaign or trying to reach him privately. If you say it on TV, he's more likely to listen. But right now you have a campaign that has a strategy that includes a certain amount of strategic patience. They know they can't really interrupt the boomlet that Kamala Harris is having right now in front of this convention. They want to wait. Trump can't wait. He's out there with everything he can to try to say something that will get him back into the news cycle.
Real quick, then, as we talk about his grievances, what's up with this lawsuit he's threatening to file against the DOJ?
Well, they filed the paperwork. It looks like they're going to do it for $115 million. This all relates to the search of Mar-a-Lago 2 summers ago, I guess now, that begot the classified documents case. He argues that that case has now been thrown out. The search was totally inappropriate. He wants $15 million for his attorney's fees, $100 million in punitive damages. I'm not an attorney, but I do follow Donald Trump. The countersuit is one of the favorite moves in his playbook. We will see if this has any legs.
And no comment from the DOJ on that just yet.
Sorry.
Garrett Haake, thank you very much.
You
Appreciate it. New tonight, we're learning the names of the 2 people killed in a massive house explosion in suburban Maryland. Look at the scale of the destruction here. The whole thing damaged some other homes nearby. With the force from the blast, you see the zone there, reportedly felt 3 miles away. A doorbell camera nearby appears to have caught the sound of it happening. Listen to this. Now the feds are joining with local fire officials to try to figure out what caused this, with some early suspicions it may have been related to a gas leak. George Solis has been at the scene. He is back now to talk us through it. What do we know? You're still there, George. What do we know about the timeline of this and about the victims?
Yeah, Hallie, obviously a lot of work to be done here to determine what caused this explosion. As you said, they believe it was an apparent gas leak. Whether or not it was inside or outside of the home is what investigators are working to determine. But as you mentioned, we now know the names of those two victims that were killed in this deadly blast. We know the homeowner, a 73-year-old wheelchair-bound man by the name of Ray Corcoran. He was actually gearing up to sell the home, from what authorities told us. The other victim was one of the contractors that actually came out there to investigate this apparent gas leak. His name is Jose Rodriguez Alvarado, 35 years old. We heard from the company that he actually works for, Hammer Underground Utilities, who said they were heartbroken by the loss and saying, of course, their thoughts are with the family. Now, as far as the timeline of how all this goes, keep in mind, officials there saying that neighbors did report smelling gas in that area, but no one actually officially reported it until the day of the actual gas explosion. So Saturday night, we hear that there was an electrical issue reported in the neighborhood. Sunday morning, someone actually does call 911. And then, of course, we know that that morning of that Sunday, that explosion occurred. And that's when those two people unfortunately died. So much more to work on in this investigation and the cleanup in that neighborhood as well, Hallie.
George Solis, live for us there in Philly after having been in Bel Air, Maryland. Thank you. Forensics experts in Brazil tonight working to identify the remains of the 58 passengers and 4 crew members killed in that horrific plane crash Friday. Investigators have removed 2 engines. They've now found both black boxes at the crash site. They're trying to get information from those black boxes to figure out why exactly this plane seemed to fall out of the sky in that dangerous and deadly flat spin. We're learning more tonight, too, about the victims, including 8 doctors on board, some of whom were headed to a cancer treatment conference together. Tom Costello is joining us now. So, significant news today about the discovery of these black boxes, because that's a potentially very critical clue here in this investigation.
Probably the most. You've got the flight data recorder, which records hundreds of parameters of data about the performance of the plane. Every single second, inch of performance, how the cockpit computer system is operating, what the pilots are doing with the controls, the performance of the wings, the tail, all of that recorded on the flight data recorder. And then the cockpit voice recorder, which, of course, records the voices in the cockpit. What are the pilots saying to each other? Did they recognize they have a problem? Were they fighting to regain control of the plane? Did they already understand what the problem was? All of that will be in those 2 black boxes. And we know that the chief investigator says they've already extracted the data from the cockpit voice recorder as well as the flight data recorder. This is all going to be critical as they try to figure out what the heck happened to this ATR-72, this turboprop with 62 people on board. It's flown around the world. It's not just a plane flown in Brazil.
You also are pointing to another crash, this American Eagle crash that happened several decades ago, back in 1994 in Indiana. Why is that critical? What are the similarities there? Because
they believed then, the NTSB found that crash was caused by icing. Ice on the wings as the plane was over Indiana, headed for O'Hare. And we know that in Brazil, this plane hit icing at altitude, at about 17,000 feet. So one of the key suspects right now is simply the idea that they ran into ice built up on the wings, and the plane came down like that, right? Because if you've got ice on the wings, you're going to lose lift very, very quickly. We don't know if that's the cause, but right now that is a leading theory. Because we know that this plane has had problems with icing in the past. However, it was supposed to be retrofitted with de-icing equipment. So did they deploy that equipment? Was it working properly? Was it ice at all? Those are among the key questions right now.
Glad to have you breaking this down for us tonight, Tom. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet.
We've got some other developing news coming into us. We've just learned that it is now officially Tropical Storm Ernesto that has formed in the Atlantic. That's from the update within the last 24 minutes or so. It is headed toward the Caribbean fast. There are already tropical storm warnings in place for Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and most of the Leeward Islands, with Ernesto potentially strengthening to a hurricane later on in the week. NBC's Angie Lassman is joining us now. Talk about what we've just learned from this National Hurricane Center update, and then the potential that this thing gets even close to the mainland here.
Yeah, so hey, Hallie, here's the deal. We now have a center of circulation. That's what the National Hurricane Center saw. We have some tropical storm force winds, so hence them categorizing it now as Tropical Storm Ernesto, with winds just barely tropical storm strength, but they are nonetheless 40 miles per hour. The system's sitting just to the east of the Leeward Islands right now. That is what's first on deck to see some impacts from this here as a tropical storm over the next basically 24 hours, but even less than that. As we get into late tonight, we'll likely start to see those tropical storm force winds and the heavy rain working its way towards the Leeward Islands. Next on deck is going to be the Virgin Islands in Puerto Rico. You see the tropical storm warnings up for all of those locations across the Caribbean. Here's the track. You mentioned, Hallie, that it does take a northerly turn, and that is what we're looking at down the line. We're going to see some strengthening. It'll be gradual and not until after midweek, I think, as we start to see that turn happening. But between now and then, maintains tropical storm strength, but gradually becomes a stronger tropical storm, works to the north of Puerto Rico, and then we're looking at the potential of down the line impacts to Bermuda. A little too early to tell exactly what that is, but just take a look at some of these rainfall amounts that we could see for Puerto Rico. We're talking over 4 inches of rain for widespread areas, but we could see localized spots up to 10 inches, Hallie. This is going to be problematic for the flash flooding, the mudslides, all of that on top of those tropical storm force winds that we're expecting there as well.
Angie Lastman, thank you very much. We've got a lot more to get to, including some breaking Olympics news just into us literally as we've been on the air. And yes, it is related to Jordan Chiles and that controversial fight over her bronze medal. An official court ruling now says Chiles will have to give it back. We'll tell you why the U.S. gymnastics team in a brand new statement is insisting the fight is not over yet. Plus, wildfires burning out of control in Greece. More on their threat to the nation's historic capital and buildings coming up. The new twist tonight, just moments ago, in the push to try to let U.S. Olympic gymnast Jordan Chiles keep her bronze medal. Tonight, USA Gymnastics is out with a brand new statement saying that the Court of Arbitration for the sport told them they cannot undo a ruling. That Chiles has to give back her medal and her third-place floor win. USA Gymnastics says they are deeply disappointed in this decision and will pursue other ways to appeal. NBC's Steve Patterson is joining us now. Okay, Steve, everybody's been watching this controversy over this bronze medal fight for Jordan Chiles. Does the U.S. even have a way to appeal this here, or is this ruling final?
So let's go back to how this all happened, right? Jordan Chiles is doing this floor routine. She gets initially 5th place. Then there is an appeal from the U.S. coach. At the time, it is successful. The appeal is specifically in her routine that the judges missed the mechanics and how difficult they were in the scoring. That appeal goes through, so she goes from 5th to 3rd, bumping down some Romanian athletes who are obviously very disappointed to hear that. But she gets on the podium, she gets the bronze medal, and everything goes through. The IOC says that the appeal came 64 seconds after the routine when she only had a minute to make that appeal. So just 4 seconds was the difference between her being in 5th place and now being in 3rd place. Now there is an appeal on the floor. They're saying broadly that the timestamp going back in the video shows they were actually within the time limit. So that's the heart of the appeal. Do they have a case to stand on? I don't know the mechanics of all these different sort of Court of Appeals rulings, but it sounds like they do. They just have to make that case, and they have to submit it as early as they possibly can, Hallie.
Okay, because this new statement from them does seem to indicate that they're not getting like super positive news, if you will, about moving forward here, that it is going to be a fight.
It's going to be definitely a fight, especially when you have the IOC and the Court of Arbitration for Sport involved and already saying that this is the ruling. This is going to stand, and you can't overturn a ruling that's already basically been made. But they're saying that, yes, we can, and we're going to try.
What is Chiles going? What's she going to FedEx the medal back?
Nobody knows how she's going to return the medal. I think that's up for sort of debate at this point. I think they're hoping that the appeal goes through and she simply won't have to. But according to the rules, she does have to give that bronze medal back, Hallie.
All of it is happening, Steve, as where you are, L.A., that city comes into focus, hosting 4 years from now, hopefully with far fewer controversies over, U.S. gymnastics athletes and their medals here. But it's super interesting as we're taking a live look now on the left side of our screen. Look at this. This is the Olympic flag. I'm checking with our team. The Olympic flag now coming back to L.A. The LA mayor is there, Mayor Bass. They're on the tarmac now waiting for it. You can see those Team USA shirts. Gavin Newsom is there. And there's the Olympic flag. It is here, 4 years and counting to go, Steve.
They're on the clock. They want to make this the cleanest Olympics that the U.S. has ever put on. They're going to do that by calling this the driverless Olympics, which in Los Angeles is crazy for a lot of Angelinos. I did this story for Nightly News for you the other night. We posted it on Twitter, and most of the comments were Angelinos just laughing at it. They say they can do it by bringing in a bunch of buses. There are pre-existing already Olympic venues in place because LA's hosted the Olympics 3 times already, and so they think they can get it done. Hallie.
Steve Patterson live for us there in L.A. Steve, thank you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, a New York man now faces a hate crime charge after allegedly stabbing someone near a synagogue in Brooklyn. Police say the 22-year-old yelled "Free Palestine" before stabbing somebody else in the chest. That man, the victim, is expected to recover. Number 2, rapper Young Thug and his 5 co-defendants back in court after an 8-week delay in their trial, already the longest in Georgia's history. The jury is back in the courtroom to hear testimony for the first time since June. Remember, this trial is picking back up now after the former judge presiding over the case was thrown out and replaced by someone else. Number 3, more than 400,000 students are heading back to school in L.A. Under new rules this year, no phones allowed. The superintendent says that new policy should help kids concentrate and, socialize in class rather than online. But the rule, set to take effect next semester in January, is creating some controversy with parents who worry about being able to reach their kids in case of emergencies. Number 4, Banksy is revealing yet another mystery mural in London. It's pretty cheeky. It looks like a rhino on top of an old car with a traffic cone on, kind of looking like another rhino. Banksy debuted 7 other animal murals just last week, so a lot of fans are now wondering what's next. Number 5, British Olympian Tom Daley confirming his retirement from competitive diving. He's back in the UK as of today with his 5th Olympic medal, but saying that the Paris Games were his last, that it's the right time to call it a day. TBD on whether or not he will keep knitting. We'll find out. To Greece now, where hundreds of people are being forced to evacuate as a huge wildfire there races toward the country's capital. You've got firefighters working around the clock to try to get this thing under control, with winds up to 40, 50 miles an hour, spreading the flames, in the words of officials, like lightning. Look at some of the new satellite imagery. You could actually see the smoke, those dark patches from space. All of it as Greece is on track for its hottest summer ever. NBC's Josh Letterman has more.
In the suburbs of Athens, people are fleeing for their lives, evacuating by the hundreds from hospitals and homes and monasteries, leaving however they can. As a brutal heat wave whips up Greece's worst wildfire so far this year, blanketing the Greek capital with thick smoke, torching everything in its path, and turning the sky into an ominous shade of red. Authorities calling this fire exceptionally dangerous, with flames more than 80 feet high. The wind would go in one direction, then the other, this North Athens man says. The smoke was suffocating. You couldn't see. Your eyes teared up. You couldn't breathe. Greece declaring an all-out war on this blaze. 700 firefighters, 190 fire engines, and dozens of planes and helicopters working around the clock as residents take matters into their own hands, putting out flames however they can. The good news, no deaths reported so far, but more than a dozen injuries, including Pantelis Kyriazis from a village northeast of Athens. He says, the flames surrounded me. I couldn't see. I hit a pine tree, and this happened. It's a crisis that Greece braces for every year, with extreme heat and dry, windy summers fueling unrelenting wildfire seasons, like the one last year. I got a first-hand look at the damage.
On the outskirts of Athens, the fire burned so hot that parts of this car literally melted off.
More than 20 people died in last year's fires, and scientists say climate change is making it worse. Fiercer wildfires, not just in Greece, but across southern Europe. With temperatures this week expected to surge to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, fears tonight in Greece that the worst may be yet to come.
Josh is joining us now. It's only been about a day, and this fire has really exploded here. Talk us through what's next.
Yeah, and it's continuing to explode, Hallie. According to the most recent estimates, that fire is now only about 8 miles from the heart of Athens. And so you can think that what a densely populated area that is, with all kinds of historical sites like the Acropolis, that authorities are very concerned. The Prime Minister of Greece, he has returned early from his vacation to be part of an all-hands-on-deck response to this fire that now includes help from other countries in Europe. As part of a mechanism that's part of the EU agreement, Greece has called on other nations to send resources as well. We know the French and the Italians are sending aircraft, and now other countries are sending firefighters as well as other equipment to try to help get that fire out. Hallie.
Josh Letterman, thank you. Up next for us, the stunning sentence for a woman accused of stealing more than $1 million worth of chicken wings. COVID cases tonight spiking, with at least 21 states, nearly half the country, showing very high levels right now, according to wastewater tests. CDC data shows infections are growing. Look at this, relatively coast to coast, with the virus evolving, finding ways around natural immunity and vaccines. Maybe you've had it recently or know somebody with COVID. Maybe you're wondering, is it time for a booster? Problem is, the vaccines available right now may not match the current dominant variants. That's not expected to be available till the fall. Our NBC News health and medical reporter, Berkeley Lovelace, is here to sort us all through it. A lot of variables here. You're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor, right? But there is this sort of moment here for checking back in on the CDC guidelines, especially as we get closer to the fall.
Yeah, so, this is a question that trumps even public health officials. Like, timing the vaccines to the virus has been an ongoing challenge. And so what they've been trying to do is essentially time the vaccines to the ongoing outbreak. The COVID has not followed a consistent pattern like the seasonal flu. We've kind of seen these double waves, like in the winter and in the summer. And so experts say for the vast majority of people who are healthy, under the age of 65, who don't have any underlying health conditions, they can wait until the fall to have an updated COVID vaccine. They're likely not to have some complications. But if you are over the age of 65, you do have a weakened immune system, or if you're pregnant, you may want to get another vaccine before that time. It's also important to note not to have a false sense of security from a COVID infection. So COVID infections do provide some level of protection, but they don't offer the same level of protection as a vaccine.
This is also raising, again, the question of masking, whether to mask, whether to go the opposite direction and ban masks. Dr. Anthony Fauci has recently come out and said maybe some people should start masking, like if you're older, if you have comorbidities. But then you have other places, like one county on Long Island, that has banned masks in public for different reasons, right? But there's a lot to the masking piece of it that's coming back up again.
Yeah, so that's also a tricky question. So there's no more widespread mask mandates anymore. Some hospitals have implemented it as COVID cases have risen. And so I would say, once again, so for the vast majority of people, if you do not have underlying health conditions, you can probably go without a mask. But for some of these for some people, people with weakened immune systems, they may still want a mask. The pandemic has not ended for them as well. And so I also know some people who just don't like to get sick. So they may not be at risk of severe illness, but they don't want to get sick. So in those cases, I would say also experts say you can also wear a mask if it makes you feel comfortable.
Do you know some people who like to get sick? Right? Like we all would prefer to stay healthy. Berkeley, no, it's super interesting, and there's a lot more to watch on this too. What's your sense for when we might get that sort of next round? Are we looking?
Yeah,
fall,
so
September,
I am hearing early September for the Raw. It's the first week of September, so it's coming in the next few weeks, and so those will be distributed out.
We'll have you back when it happens. Berkeley, thank you. Appreciate it. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Western Bureau, a suspect in a multi-county car chase this weekend is still on the loose in Seattle. Look at this. Police spotted the man slumped at the wheel of a pickup truck, but the driver took off as a deputy waited for backup to get there. Eventually, the driver got off the highway, running away. Police say they're still trying to track him down. Out of our Midwest Bureau, Chicago's school district official caught stealing chicken wings has been given a 9-year sentence today. The woman allegedly stole $1.5 million worth of wings during and after the pandemic, back when students would pick up school meals while doing remote learning. An audit found the woman ordered more than 11,000 cases of wings for herself, according to legal documents. Also out of our Western Bureau, why did the tortoise cross the road? Well, we don't know, but we do know that an Arizona state trooper rescued him. Driver called officials to try to save this tortoise crossing a highway. Fortunately, The call was successful. Troopers later found out that Stitch, that's its name, escaped from a ranch nearby. Stitch, now back home safely. Don't ever say we don't give you good news. So listen, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, of course, the Democratic vice presidential nominee, is heading to Los Angeles tomorrow for his first solo campaign stop since being selected as Kamala Harris's running mate. Walz is the first veteran on a Democratic ticket since 2004, with the party possibly hoping to peel off some members of a group that went for Donald Trump over Joe Biden by 10 points in 2020, veterans. And even though they're only about 15% of voters, these folks and their families could prove pivotal in another close race. All of it comes as Republicans are lobbying accusations at Walz of misrepresenting his military service, with the Harris camp pushing back. Yasmin Vasugian sat down with a group of vets and has more in tonight's breakdown.
Controversy over military service is not what some veterans groups want the focus to be heading into this election.
What they're trying to scrutinize, stolen valor, is just plain false. I wish we were in a place where we were celebrating both of these men's decisions to serve.
Allison Jaslow, CEO of Iraq Afghanistan Veterans of America, instead wants to focus on the issues and celebrating the fact that two vets are vying for vice president.
What type of lived experience does being a veteran bring to the ticket on both sides?
Well, I think that the type of sacrifice that not only our nation's service members, but their families make on behalf of our country is something that I think is lost sight of. They have not only lived that, they're going to remember that. And they will be close, in the decisions to send troops into harm's way.
Vance served a 4-year active duty enlistment in the Marine Corps with 2 deployments to Iraq, and Walz 24 years in the National Guard. The organization Jaslow runs not endorsing either ticket, hoping that candidates will focus on gender equality in the military, support for our Afghan allies, along with allowing alternative therapies for veterans.
Our members who are dealing with not just PTSD but chronic pain are more and more looking for alternative therapies to include psychedelic-assisted therapy.
Vote Vet Senior Advisor Mike Levine taking a different approach, endorsing the Harris ticket, a first for the organization, saying Walz prioritized vets as chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee.
He had a choice, really, to continue serving as the battalion command sergeant major of his artillery battalion, or moving into the U.S. Congress and caring for service members and families at a much grander scale. And I think if you look at his track record as a congressman, you will really see that bear out. I will not take a swing at J.D. Vance's honorable service in the U.S. Marine Corps because that's not what veterans ought to be doing.
Veterans for Trump did not respond to our request for an interview, but touts the former president's record on reforming the VA and signing the Forever GI Bill into law on its website. Jaslow thinks 2 vets being on the ballot could inspire turnout.
Our members can look up at the presidential tickets right now and see themselves in the VP candidate, which is great for all veterans.
Yasmin is joining us now. Yas, tell us more about this conversation, specifically about the nexus between military service, the political campaign coming up in November, and more.
Well, first, it's issues-based, right, Hal? Because one of the things that they're really kind of touting, wanting to advocate for, is health care for veterans, which we know oftentimes falls short. You think about the last couple of days, the FDA not approving the use of MDMA for PTSD. They're advocating for instance, alternative therapies, wanting to look to the top of the ticket to see who exactly will kind of be pushing that forward, along with some of the other issues I mentioned in my piece. But when we take a look at kind of voting records, you look at Tim Walz, for instance, he sat as the chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee in the House. They cite that, but also the voting record of J.D. Vance, saying, in fact, he did not vote for the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023, which, in fact, by the way, funds the PACT Act, which is about expanding health care for veterans. We reached out to Vance's team, essentially citing inflation as the reason why he, in fact, did not vote for the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Hal.
Yasmin Vasugian, I appreciate that. Appreciate you sitting down with those veterans and bringing us that story. Coming up, the suspension on its way for a Major League Baseball player for what he yelled at a fan in the middle of a game. We're just learning a Boston Red Sox player is now being suspended for 2 games after yelling a homophobic slur at a fan. He was at bat when a fan started heckling mid-game. The whole exchange caught on a hot mic. In a statement, Jarren Duran apologized and called his own comments horrific. Antonia Hilton is joining us now. What else do we know about what happened?
Hey, Hallie. Well, he's been suspended for the next 2 games immediately. A decision made by the Red Sox and the MLB. And he released this statement, not just apologizing, but also indicating that he's going to take up some kind of education and that the money he would have made from these 2 games is going to be donated to a community organization that supports LGBTQ people and their families. I think, though, some of what's interesting about this is just that this is one of a number of these incidents over the years. I mean, I myself grew up in Boston. I went to a lot of Red Sox games growing up. I can tell you from personal experience, this is not the first and will not be the last time that a slur has been uttered at one of their games. And this is sort of part of a sort of repeating controversy in the sport here. At the same time, though, you have to acknowledge that they have Pride Nights. They've tried to do things for LGBTQ fans and people who love the game. And so this is just one of those moments where you're looking at the reality in this sport that people love so much of, you know, it's one of those one step forward and 1 or 2 steps back kind of things, Hallie.
And Antonia, there have been situations, obviously not exactly the same as this one, but similar to this one, where you've had sort of these interactions between players and fans. In this instance, it was obviously this homophobic slur at a fan. There have been other instances of jawing back and forth as well.
That's right. This goes back a long, long way, and it's certainly not exclusive to baseball either. And I think one of the strange dynamics or realities of this, right, is it's actually part of the allure of sports, that everything in our country that we battle over in our regular cultural fabric is so present in these games. I mean, there is an entire award-winning Broadway show called Take Me Out that is about all of the conflicts over homophobia and race and identity in baseball. And that is a show that resonated for a reason, because these have been so present since the very beginning of the game. I think, though, what we see here is that with these suspensions, the league has kind of gotten into a pattern where they immediately know how to handle it, their statements are ready to go, and then people forget about it within just a little bit of time, Hallie.
Antonia Hilton, thank you very much. Coming up here on the show, the new TikTok trend pushing people to spend less, why it may tell us something about the economy. To tonight's original now, with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight, it's this new spending or unspending trend as the economy cools down and people maybe start to cut back. The New York Fed is putting out some new numbers today saying household spending isn't expected to go up as much as it has been. So the question, of course, is whether or not the economy slows down so much as to trigger a recession. Well, you've got now some folks trying to maybe romanticize and glamorize spending less. It's called underconsumption core. Vicky Nguyen explains.
So much scrolling is about buying stuff.
Okay, you seriously do not want to miss today's haul.
But now, a new movement online rejecting the consumption overload.
I don't want to shop your Amazon storefront or your TikTok showcase. I don't want to see your haul. I don't want to see any more products.
It's called underconsumption core.
Till I saw the sun.
With many of the videos set to relaxing music like Norah Jones, it's about being frugal, getting more use out of old things, and taking the pressure off of yourself to keep up with the influencers.
Underconsumption is seeing, oh, what shoes are we wearing this fall, come up 20 times on your For You page, and knowing that the shoes we already have will work perfectly fine.
Some creators breaking 1 million views as this trend takes off, casting aside perfectly aesthetic spaces, trading them for more functional living. Thrifting quirky items and spontaneity are encouraged too. That outlook can also help save a buck by downsizing on makeup, beauty products, and new clothes.
They care about the environment. They like buying secondhand. They don't care if things are used or beaten up.
While the name Underconsumption Core is new, the idea isn't. The no spend trend also going viral and buy nothing groups gaining popularity. Experts say it could be linked to younger Americans feeling persistent economic pressures like the pinch of inflation.
It has bubbled up pretty regularly at other times of economic kind of slowing. It happened in the 90s. It happened when the dot-com bubble burst, and it happened again during the Great Recession.
Relentless consumer spending helped drive a lot of America's post-COVID economic growth. But now some large U.S. companies say they're seeing their customers looking for deals and buying less.
Consumer spending has basically been fueling this economy for years. I mean, post-pandemic, everyone wanted to go out and travel. But now high interest rates, high prices, they've taken a toll. Maybe it's time to reassess all of that revenge spending that we've been doing.
The big question, whether underconsumption core is just a short-lived coping mechanism or the signs of a deeper shift that could lead to economic slowdown. Vicki Nguyen, NBC News.
And that does it for us for this hour. The coverage picks up right now. We are coming on the air tonight with the threat looming over Israel, the possibility of an attack from Iran maybe any minute, and the U.S. taking the pretty rare step of announcing a submarine deploying to the region. We're live in Israel, where the military says it is on its highest alerts. Then, breaking late tonight, the FBI tells NBC News it is investigating what the Trump campaign calls a hack of its computer systems by Iranians. More on that and whether it might come up in Mr. Trump's interview with Elon Musk, the lightning rod owner of X, just a couple hours from now. And breaking Olympics news. An official court tonight, in just the last hour or so, says Jordan Chiles has to give back her bronze medal. She has to now that is a final ruling. We'll tell you why Team USA says not so fast. Plus, as we're on the air, we've learned a new tropical storm has officially formed in the Atlantic. How dangerous it could get and who may be in its path of destruction. Then the search for answers in Brazil. Investigators trying to figure out why a plane basically fell out of the sky. What they're hoping to learn from the black boxes they just pulled from the debris. Hey, I'm Hallie. We'll get to those headlines in just a second. But first, we want to start with some developments out west and warnings of potential aftershocks with a 4.4 magnitude earthquake shaking the L.A. area in just the last couple of hours. I want to show you here, caught on a security camera. You see it here when it first started happening, the shaking here. And then I want to play for you the moment on live TV during an ESPN broadcast when the anchor realized what was going down. Look at this.
As we have a bit of an earthquake here in Los Angeles, so we're just going to make sure that our studio lights, everything stays safe, everything's shaking. You good, Mylan? Everybody good? All right, thank you so much for bearing with us through that. Our studio was shaking just a little bit.
A real-time reaction during a different ESPN show, too. Check it out.
And the peppers and the tomatoes, that's an
earthquake.
That's an earthquake.
Oh, wow, that is a real earthquake.
Whoa, that is a real one, guys. All right.
Whoa. That is real.
Hold on. Let's see if we're going to get worse here. Still rolling.
Hey, watch your...
Still rolling.
All right, I want to show you where it happened here, the Highland Park neighborhood of L.A., with reports that people miles away felt this thing. No major damage, nobody hurt as far as fire officials can tell. The White House is tracking this, too. It says, I want to get right to Dana Griffin, who is in L.A. Relatively minor earthquake, right, in the scale of things that hit L.A. But the warning of aftershocks, right, is something to take seriously here. Talk us through what's next and what it's been like there.
Absolutely. Definitely rattled nerves because it came quick. It was very strong. And this is the first time in years that we have felt a sizable earthquake east of Los Angeles. And that's according to seismologists here. And so that's why you have just this overwhelming sense of what just happened. And a lot of people, you know, when you talk about rattled nerves, a nearby school evacuated its students on the first day of classes just in case, because aftershocks are possible. We've had 3 so far, most of them under 3 magnitude, which means most people have not felt. But there is a concern that over the next few days, this could have just been a foreshock for something even greater. Dr. Lucy Jones, who's a seismologist with Caltech, she says that there's about a 5% chance that we could see something larger in the same area. But that is a very relatively low number. So this could just be the end of it. Listen to what some local people said about what it felt like earlier today.
First, my ears plugged up like when I was just sitting in an airplane, then 2 seconds later, boom. It seemed like forever, but it was probably a second or 2.
And when you talk about damage, no major damage, but at Pasadena City Hall, they actually had a pipe burst. You can see water trickling down the building, and they actually had to rescue 1 person from an elevator at City Hall. Hallie?
Dana Griffin, lots going on there where you are out west. Thank you. Let's take you overseas now, where Israel's military says it's on its highest alert, with the U.S. rushing some military power to the Middle East, with a strike from Iran looking like it could come any minute. The Pentagon's sending out the USS Georgia, a guided missile submarine, to join the American warships and fighter jets already in the region. Now, it's pretty rare that Washington would publicly share something like the deployment of a sub, so take that as a signal. The defense secretary, Lloyd Austin, tells Israel's defense minister in a call the U.S. is committed to taking every possible step to defend Israel, according to the Pentagon. The whole thing now a tinderbox after back-to-back assassinations of senior members of Hamas and Hezbollah nearly 2 weeks ago, and Iran pledging to retaliate, although, again, we don't really know how they plan to do that just yet, or even specifically when. European allies are asking Iran today to hold back, saying more attacks would jeopardize the opportunity to agree to a ceasefire and the release of hostages. The U.S. has been trying to make that hostage deal a reality, but today, another potential setback after a Hamas spokesperson said one Israeli hostage was killed by a guard. Ellison Barber is joining us now. And Ellison, a tremendous number of warnings coming from the West about what could potentially happen in the region. Why? Why now? Why tonight? Why do people think it's so imminent?
So some of it is the language changes that we have heard since that strike inside of Gaza on a school that had been turned into a shelter where over 4,000 Palestinians were said to be seeking refuge throughout the war. Israel, of course, they are claiming that this was a Hamas command center and that they killed 19 Hamas and Islamic Jihad militants in the strikes that occurred on this school. Palestinian officials, those inside of Gaza, they're saying most of the people killed here were civilians. At least 100 people were killed according to Gaza's civil defense. They say this was a school and that this strike happened during morning prayers. So that incident, coupled with the response that we heard from Hamas, Hezbollah, as well as Iran, that has heightened tensions. And then also within Israel, some people have said they were worried in particular about today because it is a Jewish holiday today. And they say, think of what happened October 7th. It was a holiday then. We have seen strikes, things take place on holidays before. So that added kind of this layer of anticipation of maybe soon is going to be the time. But since the assassination of Hania inside of Iran, Israeli officials have been telling NBC News that they did expect Iran to carry out on the promises that we heard from the supreme leader and the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, that they were going to respond because they saw Hania as a guest inside of their territory. And in the words of the supreme leader, it was their duty to avenge his death. So Israeli officials have been telling us they expected to see some sort of response. They didn't know exactly how big it would be or when it would be, but they did say they thought it was going to be bigger than what we saw in April. And now it's sort of getting to this space where some people really do feel like it's a now or never. It either happens soon in the next little bit or things change. The diplomacy that we know that is expected to happen later in the week comes in and other factors get added where maybe things would change moving forward. But right now, a lot of people are looking at the assassinations that initially led to Iran saying, hey, we're going to respond. And then that strike inside of Gaza this weekend on that school turned shelter that has really outraged all of the Arab world. And we've also seen some countries like Belgium, one of their top politicians put out a statement condemning it as well. We've seen other countries also come forward and either condemn it outright, more Western countries, or at least say, hey, this is something that we're very concerned about because the civilian death toll here seems quite high. Hallie?
Can you talk through how this all plays into this push now to try to get some sort of ceasefire? I mean, you've laid this out here, Ellison, but that seems to be a particularly difficult bit of timing when you look at sort of where things are moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very difficult. The moment it became difficult was when Hania was killed inside of Iran. He was seen as the main negotiator. And when I've spoken to Palestinian analysts who work at think tanks inside of the West Bank and focus closely on how Hamas operates and also on past hostage prisoner exchanges like the one that we saw in 2011 with an Israeli soldier, and they said the second that he was killed, they saw that and they thought Hamas would see it as this as well, as Israel saying we're not interested in any sort of ceasefire. And they viewed it as sort of a game, if you will, because they said, how can we take you seriously if you are going to assassinate the person who was at the head of the table? And who did they put in place of Hania afterwards? Yahya Sinwar, who is known to be a hardliner. In leaked correspondence, Hallie, it was Yahya Sinwar who was saying, no, let's keep fighting when Hania was having talks about doing another, at least temporary ceasefire. It was Sinwar who was sending letters from inside Gaza saying, no, I think we should stay the course. Hallie.
Ellison Barber, glad to have you there in Tel Aviv. Much to watch over the course of the coming days and weeks. Appreciate it. Some breaking news tonight with the Harris campaign telling our team it is not aware of any security breaches on their end at the same time that the FBI is confirming to NBC News it's investigating claims by the Trump campaign that it was hacked by Iranians. Ken Delanian is joining us now. Okay, Ken, explain to us what we know, because this is a bit of new information here, that the FBI is even involved at all in what the Trump campaign calls this hack.
That's right, Hallie. The FBI has opened a criminal investigation. They are not confirming that this was a hack by Iran, but Microsoft on Friday issued a public report saying that Iran had targeted a senior official in a campaign, and then Donald Trump on Truth Social announced that his campaign had been hacked by Iran. And we learned from Politico and other news organizations that they were presented with a series of what looked like internal Trump campaign documents by an anonymous person, and those, they said, were authenticated. And so it really does appear that there was a hack, and some documents of the Trump campaign have been exposed. And now the news media is going to have to decide how to handle this in the context of what happened in 2016 when the Russians hacked the Democrats, released a lot of very sensitive emails, and arguably affected that election, Hallie.
Ken Delanian, thank you very much. All of this is happening as former President Trump himself is set to be interviewed live on X in just a couple hours ago by the owner of that platform, formerly known as Twitter, this guy, Elon Musk. No word on whether Musk plans to ask about the reported hack, but it comes as Mr. Trump is posting on X for the first time today in nearly a year, putting up the campaign video that you're looking at. And Musk is putting up his own meme about it. He's apparently psyched, putting up the whisper, goosebumps, Donald Trump is back on X meme. On the other side of the aisle, Democrats are hoping to keep some of the momentum they're seeing going with some news tonight on the primetime programming at the DNC starting 1 week from today. Sources tell us President Biden is set to speak Monday night, former President Obama Tuesday night, former President Clinton Wednesday night, and then, of course, the nominee on Thursday, as is tradition. And the background for it all, what Democrats see is some good news for now. Look at that. Harris +4, +4, +4 in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, according to some new battleground polling. That is inside the margin of error, we should note. Garrett Hake is watching all things Trump campaign for us. But let me start with Monica Alba, posted up near the White House. What's interesting here, Monica, President Biden starting things off on Monday night at the DNC, which begins on Monday in Chicago. This could have been his convention. He chose to withdraw from the ticket under pressure from other Democrats here. And this feels like a way to kind of nod to his leadership there on the first night and then symbolize the party turning to the sort of next generation.
That's the idea, Hallie. Exactly. Monday is shaping up to really be a kind of tribute to him, honoring his legacy, we're told, and the president will be giving his own primetime remarks, reflecting on all of that, talking about his own decision to not pursue his candidacy, to not take this into the future and instead pass the torch to his vice president. So he's going to be touching on all of those kinds of themes at a convention that just a couple of weeks ago was supposed to be his moment, was supposed to be that ceremonial and celebratory feeling of maybe, in their view, what would have been trying to get through some of these difficult weeks, what they thought they could have pushed through and soldiered through. And in the end, we all know that he decided to step aside. And so I think you are going to see that on Monday evening. And there will be a theme throughout the week of people thanking President Biden for his leadership, but really turning the page now to Vice President Harris. And we're going to start to see that with some of the policy rollout this week in areas that she may also try to differentiate herself on.
Senior advisors to the Trump campaign, her political opponents, of course, suggest that they believe that the fundamentals of the race really haven't changed all that much. The people will still get out and vote on the economy and on immigration, areas where they think that the former president can make a pretty competitive argument, if you will. It's interesting here because on policy, you've seen the Harris-Walz campaign now try to go on offense, specifically on immigration, blasting Mr. Trump for basically killing a border bill that would have gone potentially in Congress. What about the economy? Because it sounds like she's expected to roll out a platform looking at that soon.
Yeah, she's going to be laying out a couple of these proposals that are maybe more in the care economy space, things like paid family leave and talking about universal pre-K and talking about some things that President Biden wanted to do or tried to propose as a candidate that he had to give up maybe in some congressional negotiations. But you bring up the economy and immigration there, Hallie, and a really important point in some of this polling, while it is showing gains for Vice President Harris, when people are asked specifically to talk about who they think would handle the economy better overall, or the issue of immigration, Donald Trump still leads on some of those key issues. And so that's something that certainly the Harris-Walz campaign and operation is aware of, and they know that voters, even if they're feeling a little bit of this sugar high and energy and enthusiasm, ultimately they're going to want more details on what would Vice President Harris do on those actual issues, and that is why she's going to start to do that this week, and then you'll hear a little bit more during the DNC as they continue to roll those out. Hallie.
Monica Alba, thank you very much. Garrett, let me bring you in here as we talk about former President Trump, because I'm old enough to remember when a different presidential candidate, Ron DeSantis, tried to do a one-on-one with Musk on a then Twitter situation, and it was like not amazing. What is the expectation for tonight, at least even in terms of substance here? Musk is somebody who is going to be, it seems by all accounts, a friendly interviewer based on his support of and relationship with the former president.
Yeah, Musk has put millions of dollars of his own money into a PAC supporting Donald Trump. The tech issues that bedeviled Ron DeSantis' rollout have hopefully been addressed. Musk has said he's been pressure testing the X systems today to make sure that they don't have some of the same issues that they had in the last time they tried to use Spaces in this manner. Look, for Donald Trump, this actually makes a lot of sense. Believe it or not, his campaign strategy is predicated on reaching the kind of voters who would never watch a program like this, but who do watch streaming services, gaming streams on X. This, is the kind of thing where it might get laughed off, it might have technical problems, but if it reaches even some of those people who don't engage with the traditional news cycle, I think they'll consider it a success to a certain degree.
We've been showing some of the campaign video that he posted on X when, I'm sure like you, my Twitter alerts for Donald Trump went off.
Didn't realize I still had those.
Yeah, for the first time in a very long time. What's so interesting here is there seems to be Twitter Trump and then Truth Social Trump, and a distinction between them.
If I might even extend it to a different social media meme, it kind of reminds me of the Instagram versus reality meme that so many people use. What we've seen on Twitter today, X, has been a much more polished version of Trump. The posts have looked as though they were written by staff as much as they've been written by Trump. They had at least 2 of these highly produced videos with different topics. He's got 88 million followers on X, who are people who have all different walks of life and different interests. On Truth Social, a platform he built, designed, and runs, those followers are almost all Trump super fans. That's more like his internal monologue, and it has been even in the course of the day today. Topics that were similar had completely different tone when posted out on X. A lot more of the grievance Trump that people who follow him see on the stump and are kind of gotten used to.
But even somebody like former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is saying to Donald Trump today, hey, let's not talk about crowd sizes. Let's do something a little different. That seems to be so far falling on deaf ears.
This has always been the issue with Trump. First of all, there's no better way to get his attention than to say these things on television. It works way better than calling the campaign or trying to reach him privately. If you say it on TV, he's more likely to listen. But right now you have a campaign that has a strategy that includes a certain amount of strategic patience. They know they can't really interrupt the boomlet that Kamala Harris is having right now in front of this convention. They want to wait. Trump can't wait. He's out there with everything he can to try to say something that will get him back into the news cycle.
Real quick then, as we talk about his grievances, what's up with this lawsuit he's threatening to file against the DOJ?
Well, they filed the paperwork. It looks like they're going to do it for $115 million. This all relates to the search of Mar-a-Lago 2 summers ago, I guess now, that begot the classified documents case. He argues that that case has now been thrown out. The search was totally inappropriate. He wants $15 million for his attorney's fees, $100 million in punitive damages. I'm not an attorney, but I do follow Donald Trump. The countersuit is one of the favorite moves in his playbook. We will see if this has any legs.
And no comment from the DOJ on that just yet. Garrett Haake, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And next week, you can catch our special coverage of the Democratic National Convention starting Monday right here at 4 o'clock Eastern on NBC News Now. I will be there live in Chicago all week long with all of my NBC colleagues. Got to get to some breaking news tonight. A new twist in this Olympics controversy and what looks like what could be a big defeat in the push to try to let U.S. Olympic gymnast Jordan Childs keep her bronze medal. Now, in just the past hour and a half or so, USA Gymnastics says despite new evidence that the coach appealed on time, a sports court told them it cannot change its initial decision because of its own rules. USA Gymnastics says they're deeply disappointed about all this and will keep fighting, looking for other ways to appeal. NBC's Steve Patterson is joining us now. Okay, well, so wait a second. Time out here, Steve, right? Because this has been a whole back and forth thing. After Jordan Childs initially came in 5th place in the Olympic floor competition, there was an appeal to re-look at like her difficulty score. She ended up with a bronze medal. Apparently, there is a dispute over timing. So now we have the U.S. saying they're going to try to continue to appeal. Is this decision final? Like, is Jordan Childs definitely having to give her medal back 100%, or do we not know yet?
Two things that are absolutely clear. One is that the U.S. is not done fighting this fight. And two is the way forward, we don't know how they're going to continue appealing this. This is already, like, as you mentioned, like twist 4 or 5. It's appeal 2 or 3. Let's just go back to the beginning, right? So the floor routine happens. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. But the judges say it's not quite there. So 5th place instead of making the podium. That gets appealed by the U.S. coaches who are on scene. They say, look, wait a minute. If you're watching this routine, you missed a few key components that would raise the difficulty of the scoring in this case. At the time, the appeal went through, and the people, the judges, the arbitrators on scene were like, yes, that's true. Bump her up to 3rd place. She's on the podium. There's that iconic picture with the 3 black women on the podium. Gold medal, or bronze medal, excuse me. We're not there yet. Then the Romanian coaches, because the 2 girls who were ahead of her were bumped down, 5th place instead of 3rd place, they appealed that, wait a minute, that appeal came a little too late. It has to be within a minute of the floor routine. It was actually 64 seconds, so 4 seconds too late. Their appeal on Saturday goes through to the previous appeal, which means that she is set to be stripped of her gold medal. The Romanians claim that they didn't want that to happen. They would have liked everybody to share that medal. But so far, that's where we're at as far as officially. But the U.S., in a final twist, said that they have video evidence to show that they were actually within that time limit to make the initial appeal. And so she should keep her medal. But then, maybe about an hour ago, that was denied. And it sounds like this is final because it's like an appeal on an appeal on an appeal on an appeal. Right. But the U.S. says there are still ways to fight it, including maybe going to the Swiss Supreme Court, which is like overseeing the arbitration of sport, which would be very, it sounds like, difficult to do in a case that is not more serious. And I don't know what that appeal process looks like because it's so tangled, but they say they can do it. Hallie?
There's also this question. I mean, we haven't heard from Jordan Childs about this yet, right? Herself.
Yeah, everybody involved has been so maligned on social media. She has sort of shut down hers, as well as the Romanian women that are involved in this case as well. So because of that, we don't know where she is or if she's given back her medal. But it sounds like she has to at this point, unless this appeal process goes through. We don't know how long that would take.
Yeah.
Hallie?
Steve Patterson, boy, there's a lot there. Thanks for staying on top of it, and we will see if this thing heads all the way to those highest levels as you talk about. Appreciate it. Some more breaking news into us tonight. It is now official. There is a tropical storm, Ernesto, forming in the Atlantic, as we've learned in just the last hour. It is barreling toward the Caribbean. Already, you're seeing tropical storm warnings in place for Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and most of the Leeward Islands. It's possible that this tropical storm could strengthen into a hurricane later on this week. NBC's Angie Lassman is joining us now. Tell us what we need to know about Ernesto.
Yeah, Hallie, here's the deal. We don't have to worry about this impacting the mainland of the United States, but the Caribbean and down the line, potentially Bermuda, could see some of these impacts. So let's get the deal of what we're seeing right now. Hurricane Hunter plane did see a center of circulation. That is closed, so that means that it has those tropical cyclone characteristics that we watch for and those tropical storm force winds. Notice they're up to 40 miles per hour. That means we have our 5th named system of the season so far. The tropical storm warnings are up for the Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. These are the spots that we're going to see impacts over the next 36 hours. It'll actually be much sooner for folks across the Leeward Islands, where we'll start to see those tropical storm force winds as well as the heavy rain working on in here as we get into the later portions of tonight. And then tomorrow, it'll be Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands that we see impacted from this system. Now, notice where we start to see that turn to the north. That happens midweek. It will eventually start to move to the north. It does slow down at that time as well. And this is kind of when we'll start to see the system really strengthening, at least into hurricane status. This is going to be Thursday and beyond. Notice Bermuda will start to see some of these impacts, potentially a Category 2 hurricane. This is down the line. We've got plenty of time to kind of fine-tune those specific impacts for folks there. Right now, though, it's going to be all eyes on folks across the Caribbean, the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands for really substantial rainfall. Specifically, Puerto Rico, notice 2, 3, up to 4 inches of rain. But we could see some isolated spots, Hallie, up to 10 inches. This is going to be bringing folks there the potential for not just the strong tropical storm force winds, but also the mudslides in situations where flooding will be really dire. We'll be watching for that here as the next 2 days go on.
Angie Lassman, thank you very much. New tonight, we're learning the names of the 2 people killed in a massive house explosion in suburban Maryland. I want to show you this image at the scale of destruction here. You can see sort of that initial blast zone. Damage to other houses nearby. The force from the explosion was reportedly felt as much as 3 miles away. Listen to how one neighbor described the moment she heard the blast.
So the whole building was shaking. We are about 0.3 miles from where the blast happened. All the roof of the condo buildings buckled and the siding and the aluminum has fallen down.
Now the feds are joining with local officials to try to figure out what caused this. George Solis is joining us now. And George, I know you were at the scene in Bel Air, Maryland, and spoke with some people who suggested that they had smelled gas, possibly even days earlier. Talk us through what we know and what else we're learning about the victims here.
Yeah, Hallie. So they reported it, but it never got officially reported to BG&E, the utility company. There wasn't until a contractor came out there on a different call related to some sort of electrical disturbance that he smelled the gas, then called 911, and that's when that contractor from BG&E went out there. Then subsequently that explosion occurred. So obviously tragedy compounding tragedy here. And today we actually learned the names of the 2 people that were killed in this explosion. The homeowner identified as one of them, 73-year-old Ray Corcoran Jr. And we actually know that he was going to sell his home. He actually planned on hosting an open house before this explosion, so obviously very tragic there. The contractor himself identified as 35-year-old Jose Rodriguez Alvarado. We actually got a statement from the company that he works for, Hammer Underground Utilities, who said that, of course, they were heartbroken by the loss and that their thoughts and prayers were with the family members. And again, as I mentioned, the timeline of all of this begins really about Saturday when there was some sort of electrical disturbance that was reported in the area. So Harford County there in Bel Air sends out one of their contractors. He notes the smell of gas, so he calls 911. He leaves. That's when the 2 contractors from BG&E show up, and then shortly thereafter there is that explosion early in the morning, of course rattling the neighborhood, and of course that community just reeling from the loss of life there. And now the cleanup beginning. The NTSB, they're noting in one of release this morning saying that they are looking at this as a natural gas explosion. It completely looks accidental at this point, but of course this is all very preliminary and they are just in the early stages of this investigation, Hallie.
George Solis, live for us on that. Thank you very much. Much more to get to here on the show, including coming up an out-of-control fire threatening Athens tonight. The pretty dramatic video we're getting in as thousands are forced to evacuate. And rapper Young Thug back in court with a new judge on his case. What that means for Georgia's longest ever criminal trial in the 5 things. Coming up, what the Blink Fitness bankruptcy may mean for your workout session in the 5 things. But first, forensics experts in Brazil tonight are working to identify the remains of the 58 passengers and 4 crew members killed in that horrific plane crash Friday. Investigators have removed 2 engines and both black boxes from the crash site. And they're now working to try to analyze that, to try to get information out of these black boxes, to try to figure out why exactly this plane seemed to have dropped out of the sky. It comes as we're learning more about the victims, including 8 doctors on board, some of whom were headed to a cancer treatment conference. Tom Costello is joining us now. So, significant news today about the discovery of these black boxes, because that's a potentially very critical clue here in this investigation.
Probably the most. You've got the flight data recorder, which records hundreds of parameters of data about the performance of the plane every single second, inch of performance, how the cockpit computer system is operating, what the pilots are doing with the controls, the performance of the wings, the tail, all of that recorded on the flight data recorder. And then the cockpit voice recorder, which of course records the voices in the cockpit. What are the pilots saying to each other? Did they recognize they have a problem? Were they fighting to regain control of the plane? Did they already understand what the problem was? All of that will be in those 2 black boxes. And we know that the chief investigator says they've already extracted the data from the cockpit voice recorder as well as the flight data recorder. This is all going to be critical as they try to figure out what the heck happened to this ATR 72, this turboprop with 62 people on board. It's flown around the world. It's not just a plane flown in Brazil.
You also are pointing to another crash, this American Eagle crash that happened several decades ago, back in 1994 in Indiana. Why is that critical? What are the similarities there?
Because they've believed then, the NTSB found that that crash was caused by icing. Ice on the wings as the plane was over Indiana, headed for O'Hare. And we know that in Brazil, this plane hit icing at altitude at about 17,000 feet. So one of the key suspects right now is simply the idea that they ran into ice built up on the wings, and the plane came down like that, right? Because if you've got ice on the wings, you're going to lose lift very, very quickly. We don't know if that's the cause, but right now that is a leading theory. Because we know that this plane has had problems with icing in the past. However, it was supposed to be retrofitted with de-icing equipment. So did they deploy that equipment? Was it working properly? Was it ice at all? Those are among the key questions right now.
Glad to have you breaking this down for us tonight, Tom. Appreciate it. Thank you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1. A former Cornell student just sentenced to 21 months in prison today. Patrick Dye was accused back in October of posting anonymous threats online to hurt Jewish people. In court, the judge ruled he committed a hate crime, also emphasizing his autism diagnosis and mental health struggles. Number 2, rapper Young Thug and his 5 co-defendants are back in court after an 8-week delay in their racketeering trial, which is already the longest in Georgia's history. The jury now back in court to hear testimony for the first time since June. This trial picks back up now, remember, after the former judge presiding over the case was thrown out, as we've told you on this show, and replaced by somebody else. Number 3, Blink Fitness, owned by Equinox, is now filing for bankruptcy protection in a twist after the company saw a 27% increase in revenue just last year, with memberships almost back up to pre-pandemic normal. However, that did not last. Blink, with more than 100 locations in the U.S., apparently, is just the latest chain nearing bankruptcy post-pandemic, like 24 Hour Fitness and Gold's Gym. Number 4, more than 400,000 students are going back to school in L.A. under some new rules. No phones allowed. The superintendent says that policy should help kids concentrate and socialize in class rather than online. The rule is set to take effect next semester in January, but it's creating some controversy with parents who worry about being able to get a hold of their kids in case of emergencies. Number 5, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, now the first married couple in a generation to both top the box office at the same time. Reynolds' Deadpool 3 bringing in $54 million domestically this weekend alone. Lively's It Ends With Us right behind him with $50 million. If you're like, okay, well, what was the last married couple to do it? It was Bruce Willis for Die Hard 2 and Demi Moore for Ghost back in 1990. Later in the show, the dog days of summer bringing a big COVID spike with them. We're going to break down what it means for your next booster. And one of Van Gogh's most famous paintings taking shape in a Bosnian park. Next. Coming up, how some of America's veterans are responding to claims about vice presidential candidate Tim Walz. But first, COVID cases seeing a spike this summer with at least 21 states, nearly half the country showing very high levels of COVID, according to wastewater tests. CDC data shows infections are growing in most of the country as the virus keeps evolving, finding ways around natural immunity and vaccines. I mean, listen, maybe you've had COVID recently or know somebody who has. Maybe you're wondering if it's time for another booster. Problem is, the vaccines available right now may not match the current dominant variant. Those vaccines aren't expected until the fall. So what's next? NBC News health and medical reporter Berkeley Loveless is here. A lot of variables here. You're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor, right? But there is this sort of moment here for checking back in on the CDC guidelines, especially as we get closer to the fall.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a question that trumps even public health officials. Like timing the vaccines to the virus has been an ongoing challenge. And so what they've been trying to do is essentially time the vaccines to the ongoing outbreak. The COVID has not followed a consistent pattern like the seasonal flu. We've kind of seen these double waves like in the winter and in the summer. And so experts say for the vast majority of people who are healthy under the age of 65, who don't have any underlying health conditions, they can wait until the fall to have an updated COVID vaccine. They're likely not to have some complications. But if you are over the age of 65, you do have a weakened immune system, or if you're pregnant, you may want to get another vaccine before that time. It's also important to note not to have a false sense of security from a COVID infection. So COVID infections do provide some level of protection, but they don't offer the same level of protection as a vaccine.
This is also raising, again, the question of masking, whether to mask, whether to go the opposite direction and ban masks. Dr. Anthony Fauci has recently come out and said maybe some people should start masking, like if you're older, if you have comorbidities. But then you have other places, like one county on Long Island, that has banned masks in public for different reasons, right? But like there's a lot to the masking piece of it. It's coming back up again.
Yeah, so that's also a tricky question. So there's no more widespread mask mandates anymore. Some hospitals have implemented it as COVID cases have risen. And so I would say, once again, so for the vast majority of people, if you do not have underlying health conditions, you can probably go without a mask. But for some of these for some people, people with weakened immune systems, they may still want a mask. The pandemic has not ended for them as well. And so I also know some people who just don't like to get sick. So they may not be at risk of severe illness, but they don't want to get sick. So in those cases, I would say also experts say you can also wear a mask if it makes you feel comfortable.
Do you know some people who like to get sick? I mean, right? Like we all would prefer to stay healthy. Bergman, no, it's super interesting, and there's a lot more to watch on this too.
Yeah.
What's your sense for when we might get that sort of next round? Are we looking?
Yeah,
fall,
so
September,
I am hearing early September for the raw. It's the first week of September, so it's coming in the next few weeks, and so those will be distributed out.
We'll have you back when it happens. Berkeley, thank you. Appreciate it. To Greece now, where we're just learning that at least one person has been killed and hundreds of people are being forced to evacuate as a huge wildfire races toward Athens. Firefighters are working around the clock to try to get this thing under control, but there's a lot of wind, and that is not great for trying to get a handle on this fire. The flames are spreading, in the words of officials, like lightning. You can even see the smoke, see those dark patches from space. It all comes as Greece is on track for its hottest summer ever. Josh Letterman has more.
In the suburbs of Athens, people are fleeing for their lives, evacuating by the hundreds from hospitals and homes and monasteries, leaving however they can. As a brutal heat wave whips up Greece's worst wildfire so far this year, blanketing the Greek capital with thick smoke, torching everything in its path, and turning the sky into an ominous shade of red. Authorities calling this fire exceptionally dangerous, with flames more than 80 feet high. The wind would go in one direction, then the other, this North Athens man says. The smoke was suffocating. You couldn't see. Your eyes teared up. You couldn't breathe. Greece declaring an all-out war on this blaze. 700 firefighters, 190 fire engines, and dozens of planes and helicopters working around the clock as residents take matters into their own hands, putting out flames however they can. More than a dozen injuries, including Pantelis Kyriazis from a village northeast of Athens. He says, the flames surrounded me. I couldn't see. I hit a pine tree, and this happened. It's a crisis that Greece braces for every year, with extreme heat and dry, windy summers fueling unrelenting wildfire seasons, like the one last year. I got a first-hand look at the damage.
On the outskirts of Athens, the fire burned so hot that parts of this car literally melted off.
More than 20 people died in last year's fires, and scientists say climate change is making it worse. Fiercer wildfires, not just in Greece, but across southern Europe. With temperatures this week expected to surge to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, fears tonight in Greece that the worst may be yet to come.
Josh is joining us now. It's only been about a day, and this fire has really exploded here. Talk us through what's next.
Yeah, and it's continuing to explode, Hallie. According to the most recent estimates, that fire is now only about 8 miles from the heart of Athens. And so you can think that what a densely populated area that is, with all kinds of historical sites like the Acropolis, that authorities are very concerned. The Prime Minister of Greece, he has returned early from his vacation to be part of an all-hands-on-deck response to this fire that now includes help from other countries in Europe. As part of a mechanism that's part of the EU agreement, Greece has called on other nations to send resources as well. We know the French and the Italians are sending aircraft, and now other countries are sending firefighters as well as other equipment to try to help get that fire out, Hallie.
Josh Letterman, thank you. NBC News covers hundreds of other international stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment we called The Global. Out of Australia, a helicopter caught on camera crashing into the roof of a hotel there. You're looking at the aftermath here. Police say the crash killed the pilot and forced hundreds of guests to evacuate. There are pieces of the chopper even still on the ground. Officials are trying to figure out how it happened. out of Bosnia. A starry night over there, but you can see it during the day. A huge nature park in Bosnia, recreated to look like the famous Vincent van Gogh painting. The owner of the park says there's more than 130,000 lavender bushes made to look like the swirls you see in that starry night painting. In the UK, officials are arresting somebody after he allegedly stabbed a child and a woman in a busy London square. Police say the two victims were taken to the trauma center. It follows a week of riots and unrest in the UK with anti-immigration protests there, but it's not clear if the stabbing is linked to the recent violence in London. Want to get to some breaking news tonight as well. An update to a story we brought you earlier in the show. A source familiar with the matter, speaking on condition of anonymity to discuss a sensitive investigation, says the FBI is investigating attempted hacks of 3 Biden-Harris campaign staffers and former Trump advisor Roger Stone. This was first reported by the Washington Post. It's part of the overall investigation we reported previously. Now, it's not clear the targeting of the Biden staffers was successful, according to the source. Stone told the Washington Post he had been informed by authorities his email had been compromised. We're going to continue to update you as the news comes in. Elsewhere in the world of politics, you've got Minnesota Governor Tim Walz heading to Los Angeles tomorrow for his first solo campaign stop since being selected as Vice President Harris's running mate. Walz, of course, the first veteran on a Democratic ticket since 2004. With the party possibly hoping to peel off some members, veterans of a group that went for Donald Trump over Joe Biden by 10 points in 2020. And even though they make up only about 15% of voters, those veterans and their families could prove pivotal in another close race. It comes as Republicans are accusing Walz of misrepresenting his military service, with the Harris camp pushing back. Yasmin Vasugian sat down with a group of vets. She has more in tonight's breakdown.
Controversy over military service is not what some veterans groups want the focus to be heading into this election.
What they're trying to scrutinize, stolen valor, is just plain false. I wish we were in a place where we were celebrating both of these men's decisions to serve.
Allison Jaslow, CEO of Iraq-Afghanistan Veterans of America, instead wants to focus on the issues and celebrating the fact that 2 vets are vying for vice president.
What type of lived experience does being a veteran bring to the ticket on both sides?
Well, I think that the type of sacrifice that not only our nation's service members, but their families make on behalf of our country is something that I think is lost sight of. They have not only lived that, they're going to remember that. And they will be close, in the decisions to send troops into harm's way.
Vance served a 4-year active duty enlistment in the Marine Corps with 2 deployments to Iraq, and Walz 24 years in the National Guard. The organization Jaslow runs not endorsing either ticket, hoping the candidates will focus on gender equality in the military, support for our Afghan allies, along with allowing alternative therapies for veterans.
Our members who are dealing with not just PTSD but chronic pain are more and more looking for alternative therapies to include psychedelic-assisted therapy.
Vote Vet Senior Advisor Mike Levine taking a different approach, endorsing the Harris ticket, a first for the organization, saying Walz prioritized vets as chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee.
He had a choice, really, to continue serving as the battalion command sergeant major of his artillery battalion, or moving into the U.S. Congress and caring for service members and families at a much grander scale. And I think if you look at his track record as a congressman, you will really see that bear out. I will not take a swing at J.D. Vance's honorable service in the U.S. Marine Corps because that's not what veterans ought to be doing.
Veterans for Trump did not respond to our request for an interview, but touts the former president's record on reforming the VA and signing the Forever GI Bill into law on its website. Jaslow thinks 2 vets being on the ballot could inspire turnout.
Our members can look up at the presidential tickets right now and see themselves in the VP candidate, which is great for all veterans.
Yasmin is joining us now. Yas, tell us more about this conversation, specifically about the nexus between military service, the political campaign coming up in November, and more.
Well, first, it's issues-based, right, Hal? Because one of the things that they're really kind of touting, wanting to advocate for, is health care for veterans, which we know oftentimes falls short. You think about the last couple of days, the FDA not approving the use of MDMA for PTSD. They're advocating for instance, alternative therapies, wanting to look to the top of the ticket to see who exactly will kind of be pushing that forward along with some of the other issues I mentioned in my piece. But when we take a look at kind of voting records, you look at Tim Walz, for instance, he sat as the chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee in the House. They cite that, but also the voting record of J.D. Vance saying, in fact, he did not vote for the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023, which, in fact, by the way, funds the PACT Act, which is about expanding health care for veterans. We reached out to Vance's team, essentially citing inflation as the reason why he, in fact, did not vote for the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Hal.
Yasmin Vasugian, I appreciate that. Appreciate you sitting down with those veterans and bringing us that story. Coming up, the suspension on its way for a Major League Baseball player for what he yelled at a fan in the middle of a game. We're just learning a Boston Red Sox player is now being suspended for 2 games after yelling a homophobic slur at a fan. He was at bat when a fan started heckling mid-game. The whole exchange caught on a hot mic. In a statement, Jarren Duran apologized and called his own comments horrific. Antonia Hilton is joining us now. What else do we know about what happened?
Hey, Hallie. Well, he's been suspended for the next 2 games immediately. A decision made by the Red Sox and the MLB. And he released this statement, not just apologizing, but also indicating that he's going to take up some kind of education and that the money he would have made from these 2 games is going to be donated to a community organization that supports LGBTQ people and their families. I think, though, some of what's interesting about this is just that this is one of a number of these incidents over the years. I mean, I myself grew up in Boston. I went to a lot of Red Sox games growing up. I can tell you from personal experience, this is not the first and will not be the last time that a slur has been uttered at one of their games. And this is sort of part of a sort of repeating controversy in the sport here. At the same time, though, you have to acknowledge that they have Pride Nights. They've tried to do things for LGBTQ fans and people who love the game. And so this is just one of those moments where you're looking at the reality in this sport that people love so much. It's one of those one step forward and 1 or 2 steps back kind of things, Hallie.
And Antonia, there have been situations, obviously not exactly the same as this one, but similar to this one, where you've had sort of these interactions between players and fans. In this instance, it was obviously this homophobic slur at a fan. There have been other instances of jawing back and forth as well.
That's right. This goes back a long, long way, and it's certainly not exclusive to baseball either. And I think one of the strange dynamics or realities of this, right, is it's actually part of the allure of sports, that everything in our country that we battle over in our regular cultural fabric is so present in these games. I mean, there is an entire award-winning Broadway show called Take Me Out that is about all of the conflicts over homophobia and race and identity in baseball. And that is a show that resonated for a reason, because these have been so present since the very beginning of the game. I think, though, what we see here is that with these suspensions, the league has kind of gotten into a pattern where they immediately know how to handle it, their statements are ready to go, and then people forget about it within just a little bit of time, Hallie.
Antonia Hilton, thank you very much. Coming up here on the show, the new TikTok trend, pushing people to spend less, why it may tell us something about the economy. To tonight's original now, with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight, it's this new spending or unspending trend as the economy cools down and people maybe start to cut back. The New York Fed is putting out some new numbers today saying household spending isn't expected to go up as much as it has been. So the question, of course, is whether or not the economy slows down so much as to trigger a recession. Well, you've got now some folks trying to maybe romanticize and glamorize spending less. It's called underconsumption core. Vicky Nguyen explains.
So much scrolling is about buying stuff.
Okay, you seriously do not want to miss today's haul.
But now, a new movement online rejecting the consumption overload.
I don't want to shop your Amazon storefront or your TikTok showcase. I don't want to see your haul. I don't want to see any more products.
It's called Underconsumption Core.
Till I saw the sun.
With many of the videos set to relaxing music like Norah Jones, it's about being frugal, getting more use out of old things, and taking the pressure off of yourself to keep up with the influencers.
Underconsumption is seeing, oh, what shoes are we wearing this fall, come up 20 times on your For You page, and knowing that the shoes we already have will work perfectly fine.
Some creators breaking 1 million views as this trend takes off, casting aside perfectly aesthetic spaces, trading them for more functional living. Thrifting quirky items and spontaneity are encouraged too. That outlook can also help save a buck by downsizing on makeup, beauty products, and new clothes.
They care about the environment. They like buying secondhand. They don't care if things are used or beaten up.
While the name Underconsumption Core is new, the idea isn't. The no spend trend also going viral and buy nothing groups gaining popularity. Experts say it could be linked to younger Americans feeling persistent economic pressures like the pinch of inflation.
It has bubbled up pretty regularly at other times of economic kind of slowing. It happened in the 90s. It happened when the dot-com bubble burst, and it happened again during the Great Recession.
Relentless consumer spending helped drive a lot of America's post-COVID economic growth. But now some large U.S. companies say they're seeing their customers looking for deals and buying less.
Consumer spending has basically been fueling this economy for years. I mean, post-pandemic, everyone wanted to go out and travel. But now high interest rates, high prices, they've taken a toll. Maybe it's time to reassess all of that revenge spending that we've been doing.
The big question, whether underconsumption core is just a short-lived coping mechanism or the signs of a deeper shift that could lead to economic slowdown. Vicki Nguyen, NBC News.
And that does it for us for this hour. The coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.